Folks, here's where the rubber's going to start hitting the road. Because when Jonathan assumes the leadership there at Daystar, if he does, he's going to have to make some changes. And I believe he's up for it. But I want to talk about it. And let's go. Here we go. I'm going to show you some real problems with this email. To the Board of Directors, Word of God Fellowship, leadership of Daystar, and the Lamb family. Well, to be perfectly honest, y'all, one of the first red flags is in that line right there. Because one of the problems that we're dealing with in this situation is the blending of corporate structure, nonprofit structure, 501c3 structure, and family. And we are going to address something tonight that is very uniquely American, and it is a fairly recent phenomenon in terms of world history, and I'm going to call it the American church family business model. It's got to go. It's got to go. And I want to say, remember my statement? The person that should be leading this is Jonathan, and I'll explain why. But I want everybody to realize Jonathan was born and raised within a system, within a system and a structure that I believe he's going to have to absolutely challenge and reform, and for all intents and purposes, deconstruct and do something real, do something right, and do something righteous, because that system is not holy. But let's keep reading this. This is an important directive from me to each of you who are so important and so important to Daystar. Now, I know that we're rereading. Since I'm older, and since women historically live longer than men, I'll skip a little bit. I'll probably go to heaven before Joni. So he's addressing mortality. Now, I'm not planning on leaving anytime soon. As a result, I will work with so he's trying to take care of himself. I want to live longer so I can influence my grandchildren. Okay. If I precede Joni in death, then my directive is that Joni will replace me as head of Daystar. Now, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and that's okay. This is my opinion, happens to be right, and so I'm okay with this. Here's the problem that you see, folks. Daystar was built with an ordained minister within a denomination, Cleveland, Tennessee, Church of God, Cleveland, Tennessee, but it's built using the structure of the American IRS designation of a 501c3. What is a 501c3? A 501c3 is a nonprofit, drum roll please, wait for it, corporation. It is a corporation. And corporations will have a director, will have somebody at the top, will have a president, but a real corporation and a real nonprofit will have a governing board. And governing boards work with who's ever at the top, but the boards make the decisions. And what we have here is an example, not of that. You have an example where someone in an email is telling the entire organization how it's gonna be. And I submit to you, and I submit to my dear brother Jonathan, to Susie, and everybody else watching the situation, that is not proper and correct. It's not. Name another corporation where the top person, the president, can just make a decision and about succession, and everybody has to go with it. It doesn't exist, except it does exist in the family church business model. See, here's the thing. If we're not careful, people are going to, because on Monday, the 11th, I personally, and I'm encouraging you to do the same, I'm setting the day aside as much time as I can. It's going to be a lot of time, but many of us are joining together and we are praying for Jonathan Lamb and Susie Lamb. And I'm encouraging you to take some of what you're hearing here and let this inform your prayer life, because these are things that need to be addressed. Okay. Jonathan Lamb was born and bred and raised in this system, but this is a system where a person can raise all the money to build their organization, and it's tax-free. So that's a tremendous advantage compared to for-profit organizations. But within the family church business model, the guy at the top can just say, this is the way it is. And all I need you to do is email back and say you agree. Let's just keep reading this. Let's keep since I'm okay. So if I proceed Joni, then my directive is that Joni will replace me as head of Daystar. But see, the problem is, folks, the guy at the top can't do that. Not within. I mean, here's the thing: if you're going to operate that way, that's wonderful. But go ahead and be a for-profit business. But it can't be really a corporation, because what you've just done is you've said that the board and the people that keep you accountable, they don't keep you accountable. They just go along with what you say. And folks, I'm going to show you the founding documents for this in just a moment. I direct that if Joni passes or retires, then Jonathan Lamb will become head of Daystar. Now, folks, many of us that support Jonathan and Susie will say, well, that's his birthright. It's his birthright. That's what his father wanted. It is. Can we be adults and can we be grown-ups tonight, ladies and gentlemen? I'll tell you why Jonathan Lamb is the man for the job. Okay. If there were a real board of directors, hands down, Jonathan Lamb is the man for the job. First of all, yes, the founding director did let those wishes be known, but just because you let those wishes be known doesn't mean that's what automatically happens. The board of directors in a real corporation would have to approve that. Here's just a few reasons. First of all, there ain't nobody else in the industry that you can trust. Okay. You can trust Jonathan Lamb. Secondly, you still have to have the goodwill of your consumer base. Okay. When Steve Jobs was dying or whatever, very concerned about the way different people would be perceived or whatever. Nobody is going to be perceived as warmly and strongly and welcomed as the way that Jonathan Lamb would be. So hands down, there's nobody on the planet that's going to be able to so quickly and easily and humbly garner the goodwill and the support of the people. And that's really all the reason, and this might not make you popular, but the reason that he's the man for the job is not because Daddy said so. Because Daddy's saying so and everybody thinks that's the law of the land, that's actually one of the big problems. That's one of the big problems. See, if we're not careful, you're going to hear people and they'll talk about like Jonathan's inheritance. I hope Jonathan gets an inheritance. I sincerely pray Joni didn't completely cheat her son. Joni was wealthy. Marcus and Joni were wealthy. And I pray that Jonathan and Susie are taken care of in the will and that they aren't cheated in their inheritance. But I have to be honest and say, Daystar Corporation is nobody's inheritance. And we talk about it like it is. The whole family. Okay, let's keep moving. We'll come back to this slide here. Let me read the rest of the slide, and I want to show y'all some things. I make this directive as founder, president, CEO of Word of God Fellowship and the Daystar Network. But see, in a corporation, you can't do that. Hello. I further instruct Arnold. Now listen to this, folks. This is a problem. Now, folks, let me say this. Absolutely, this email is evidence of Marcus Lamb's wishes. And I believe the testimony of Denise Boggs. I believe that he even altered his wishes from his deathbed, saying, you know what, skip the Joni part. This needs to go right to Jonathan. That's what I believe, okay? But I would say still, it's not his to will to any of his children or anyone else. There is to be a board of directors. Or that's fine if you don't like that arrangement, but stop being a 501c3. But see, in America, we allow that. We allow these fine points in the way we do things. This might not, and I, if I had Jonathan right in front of me, I've met Jonathan a couple of times. I love him. I love Susie. They are so precious. I would say this right. I would say, and I think he probably already realizes this. Just bear with me, folks. Bear with me. I decided to do a little research. I said, you know, this whole family church business model where this is supposed to be about the gospel and sharing the gospel, but you have some real advantages in America where just a couple of people can sign a piece of paper and all of a sudden you're tax exempt. So you can be like in the gospel business and you're tax exempt, but you're not accountable to nobody. And if you can get church designation, you don't have to show accountability to anybody whatsoever. And I wanted to do a little research. And so I encourage you to do this. I'm going to show you just a tiny little bit of the research that I did, but like, how did the early church feel about these kind of things? What did the early church fathers, did they, like in the first century, second century, third or fourth century of Christianity, did you have these family business dynasties? Let me just read you a few things. Now, this was from the ecclesiastical canon of the same holy apostles. A bishop must not gratify his brother or his son or any other kinsman with the episcopal dignity, or ordain whom he pleases, for it is not just to make heirs to episcopacy. It is not just to make heirs to episcopacy and to gratify human affections in divine matters. For we must not put the church of God under the laws of inheritance, but if anyone shall do so, let his ordination be invalid and let him be punished with suspension. Hey, look at this. I'm removing the slide. I'm going to play you a video. I'm not going to mess it up. I've been so impressed. I think this is a young guy, but it could be a computer voice. But this Apocalypton, I want to play a clip that starts to get us on the subject matter here. And let me just play it. We'll talk about it.
Jonathan Lamb grew up inside the Moses model. His father Marcus was the apex, the founder, the visionary, the one who heard from God and built the stations. The system was the air Jonathan breathed from his earliest memory. And yet, when the system was used against his daughter, against his conscience, against his wife, he did not comply. He did not comply even though the man demanding his compliance had stood at his wedding. He did not comply even though the system had formed him from childhood.
Folks, that's why I am not contradicting myself. The position needs to go to Jonathan Lamb, but it's not a matter of inheritance. It's a matter of experience. It's a matter of contact with the viewing public. It's a matter of proximity to the whole situation, but it is not. And I believe it's the will of God and the calling of God. I absolutely do. But what I want to point out, it is not a matter of inheritance, because you can't inherit a ministry. In America, we think you can. And proximity and all these things, how do they reply to Jonathan? He was raised in this system. I hit a button I wasn't supposed to hit. Oh man. See, and I'm not going to use a cliche. Oh, the devil's fighting this. Let me get back over here. If somebody can please. All right, folks. I'm going to ask that if you would like to support the program, man, what is going on here? Okay, let's add this now. There we go. If you'd like to support the program, you can go to ohioforfreedom.com. I'm not going to be able to read these screenshots. It's more of the same. It's as you go through this, and Laura Lynn did such a great job. But the thing I would want you to realize, if we had time to go through that, is just to realize that the blending of family and blending of corporate, and it's all benefits from the 501c. We have created something in America where people can have it both ways. They can be a church, but they're not a church. They can be a business, but they're not a business. It's all about the family, but it's the church. I've made my point, and I'm reiterating. If you'd like to support the program, you can go to ohioforfreedom.com, and you can use our PayPal link. We really, really, really appreciate it. You can use our bank card link. We really get a good rate on that. And so Visa, MasterCard, Discover, Express, our Zelle supporters, we so appreciate you. And our P.O. Box is P.O. Box 344, Mason, Ohio, 45040. And so I am going to sign off. Woo, this has been longer than I thought it would be. But hey, it ain't that first time that's ever happened. And I do apologize for zipping in, zipping out, whatever. Till next time, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio, the United States of America. And we send our blessings and greetings to our friends around the world. Good night, y'all.